Welcome, Tangle friends. Today we're going to do a really beautiful organic project that includes 2 organic tangles, Foundabout by Headquarters, Maria, Zentangle Headquarters, and also Eros by me, and a little version with a bud of Eros, and it's going to be done in a wreath format. Foundabout is a new tangle to me and I love it so very much, so I started playing with it. And it's usually done in a stock form like this. But I wanted to do it in a wreath form. I like this. So that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to do the Foundabout as our start for the wreath, and then we're going to fill in the places with the Eros, and then finally add these little sprigs that are basically the start of the Foundabout step out. So I'm just starting out with a Zendala that I'm going to pencil in a circle on for our wreath guideline. And you can use whatever you have, a compass, you can just do it freehand. I'm going about almost an inch in. So what I have here, so little with me, I am going to just trace the bottom of this bucket that is holding all of my current art supplies, which are not many. And there we have the wreath. You can just pencil it in with your hand. It's not going to show, so it doesn't matter if it's wiggly or not. All right, so given that, we're going to start our roundabout. That's going to be the base in which we're going to fill in with the Eros. So roundabout goes like this. It's a little bit like a rosemary leaf. And then I'm going about 3/4 of the way up. And I like to keep mine nice and delicate for this project. You can, of course, vary the width of that leaf by just making it nice and wide. And then you can do some fun things with that inside, like add perfs or other tangles. But for our project, I'm just trying to keep it thin, and I'm just trying to follow along that guideline, keeping it a bit in a circular form. Oops, that one got really fat, but that's okay. No one's going to notice. You can also vary the length of these spikes, and that's going to determine the bud size that you'll see when we get that far. Oops. I love this pattern because it looks really difficult, but it's not. If you just do it one step at a time, and the way I'm stepping it out is easy for me, so I hope it's easy for you too. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as I can. So, pretty good as a little round wreath. Even that's a pretty little simple wreath. Then we're going to do the next step, which is make our buds that we are going to jump off the tip of each of these spikes. I like to go in one direction, and then I'll go over here and do it the other direction. So I like to bow out, big belly. You can go all the way down. You can go partially down, and I'll show you why when we get that far. But you can vary it. And then we're going to go the opposite side. Again, that alone is a very pretty pattern, right? Okay, now comes the part that makes it look so incredibly beautiful and almost lifelike. I think it reminds me of the dried pods of a mullein plant, if you know what I mean. They're like these little cups almost. So what we're going to do, take one side or the other. I'm going to start on the left side, and we're just going to take that from the tip over here. We're going to draw a line that kind of makes this look like it's a cup. See how it looks like it's going down in that space. Lends itself wonderfully for shading. Now, other people do this a little differently. They might go ahead and go all the way down, but I don't, because it gets confusing. I like to do these cup lines first, and then I will continue to extend the line down if I need to, if there's room, and you'll see what I mean when I get that far. So still doing this side. Okay, that went fast. And now we're going to do the cups on the other side. Looks like a little pitcher, like the spout of a pitcher. That could have been a little bit wider. You can make it wider like that or thinner, going closer. I should have done it a little wider on the other one, but who cares? I love Barbara Langston's motto, "This is not perfect Zen." This is about the process, about enjoying your drawing. It's about relaxing and having fun. And there's all kinds of things you can do with these little tips, which is a fun thing to explore. You can jump off them and make little spirals. You can add perfs in here, little beads. Now is the third step. The third step is following that line down. Let's say we started on the left side, right? So let me find a good one. Following this line, we're going to think about drawing behind and then end right here. So the closer you are together, the less that cup is going to show. But it is an important part of the pattern, because if you have a large bud far apart, you can really see how that cup goes down in there. And then, as you can see here, they sort of then begin to weave together, which is so pretty. No room here because they're touching each other. Just where there's room. This one shows it very nicely right here. And that's pretty much it. Then we can just start filling in these spaces with, well, before we do that, there's another step I'd like to show you because I think it's really pretty. It's kind of a hatching within this cup, because the hatching causes what we say in pen and ink, basically shading. And so if you take your pen and you just do some fine line work where these cups would go. I guess I forgot to do that side. See, when you work through a whole pattern, you find it out. So this side, line, line, line. So I was drawing here and come behind. Let's see, that one doesn't really reach out. So it would stop just here. This one would have room. You could change up your pen at this point and use a smaller tip. And here we are back again. Okay, now we can do that to this other side as well. So here's a nice example. You just go. You can also sprout some of these off of each other, which is another pretty look, but let's concentrate on one thing today. There, now we have both sides done. Now we're going to take my Eros, and if you haven't seen the YouTube on Eros and how to draw it in great detail, you can go back to my YouTube that I'll link to the bottom here. But let's just pick a place where we could fill in the space and start one. I'm going to do it this orientation. See why we needed to leave some space so that we don't bump up to the edge too much. And then this hatching on the Eros goes nicely with the hatching lines on the Foundabout. I like to weight this a little bit. And that's another thing you can do on here. Also, you can emphasize the tips a little bit more by just going back and adding kind of a little stinger on the end. I think it makes it pretty. You can also weight a few lines. So this little area here lends itself well to just a little bud, a rose bud. Whoops, I'm going to weight that. Right here, all it is just a spiral. And then we just come down like we're going to have a cupped bud here. Maybe just weight these. You could do some hatch marks there. Let's do that again. Let's put one over here so you can see that. Something like that. And then we could add little perfs. You can save the perfs for the end if you'd like. And I'm going to just keep on building that ring up with my flowers, okay? So that's up to you how many you want to put in there. Here I did a whole cluster, so there's like a, you know, like a focal point on my wreath. And when we get done, we can loosen this all up with the perfs, right? Those just add such a cute little sparkle almost. And then the other thing I like to do is either you could do fescues, you could do blossom, but since we're using and concentrating on Foundabout, I thought we could do this as a little sprig on our wreath. You can do 2 or 3. So that's basically just the Foundabout base pattern. You can keep building it as you wish. You could jump off one and add to it. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to do another rose here. Just breathe and enjoy. Stepping back and looking every once in a while where you can fill in and admiring your work when you do it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to shade now, and then I will show you my finished piece. Otherwise this will take too long, and man, I'm not going to be able to upload this as it is. Okay, so now I've got my 3B pencil. You could use a 2B, any soft graphite pencil, and then I've got my blending stump, my tortillon, and a kneaded eraser. I like to shade these from the bottom. And then here, because this is where they are overlapping, and you really don't need to shade in the cup area because we've done that wonderful hatching. So again, I would just go a little bit down here. We want to keep this big bellied part in the light. Because that would be sticking out the furthest and hitting your light source. And I know this is not botanical illustration, but it is, for me, always something I try to sort of follow because it makes what we're doing more believable. So here, I got a little bit dark, and like I always say, I lift and then I blend back. And then on, let's do this one. A little bit here at the tip. Sometimes you can just use what's on your tortillon. Mine's getting pretty sad. Okay, so this is actually over the top of this rose. So I'm going to put some graphite here just to bring that out. And then I always put some around the base of my rose. And don't worry that some of these lines are getting covered up by the shading, because that makes it look like it's receding. And it's so dramatic that way. Here's our rosebud. You could put a little bit down. Looks like I forgot the hatching. This is where you can find your little mistakes as you slowly go on, and then just carefully do the rest. Same way. Like I said, you should go check out my tutorial on Eros so you can really see how I shade it. So I've at least finished that shading, and I'll think about adding some more roses, or maybe not. In any case, I would definitely add a few more of these little Foundabout sprigs throughout. And I might even actually then just leave it at that after I get done with that part. I did want to say that it would be really fun to do this in color. I wanted to keep it black and white today, but you could use this as a grisaille. If you follow my channel, you know what I'm talking about. You could add colored pencil on top. You could do a glaze of watercolor or watercolor pencils. You could use different flowers in there. Here is an example. I, of course, always love henna drum, so I started putting henna drum in there, and I started putting leaf kind of veins on the outside of the pods, which is also kind of a fun look, right? Here's another example of that. This is like a garland, and then I'm going to do one of my butterflies in there, kind of like I had taught at Tangle U. You could just use a bit of a little red pen here for this purse or gold jelly roll. You could just add a clear sparkle on the roses. There's so many things you could do that would enhance just this little black and white tile. So I hope you have fun with the project and see me next week. I will try to come up with something summer-like. There's so many flowers, wildflowers blooming here. It's just crazy. I think it's because they had an incredibly wet April, and now the earth is like bursting with flowers. So I am inspired like I've never been before. I hope I can come up with another pretty organic tile for you now that it's summertime. So have fun, and I hope to see you next week. Give me a thumbs up, like my channel, subscribe, and of course you can please always share your results on Annie's Botangle alumni Facebook page. Thanks a lot for joining me. See you next week.